Okay, we're going to start this morning with a very valuable asset to the NAPS organization. Simon Story, I first got to know him as a district manager at Central Plains, which is my district, and he proved to be very valuable at that point. Simon has been a NAPS member since he became a manager. So he is still an active NAPS member, and he's not one of the ones that we have to worry about trying to work around the policy letters that we get from headquarters. He's one of the supporters. For instance, in voluntary reassignments we talked about earlier with one of the members. And we were having a few problems in Central Plains, and when Simon came on, we simply sat down and talked about the letter, and the problems went away. He is one of the biggest liaisons we have with the western area, Sylvester Black, and I'm sure everybody knows Sylvester's reputation with NAPS. Simon is a perfect liaison. He balances what Sylvester has going on and presents things in both ways, back to us and to Sylvester. Absolutely a friend of NAPS. So I guess I will just let this go forward. Simon is more than willing to field any questions, including ones from Great Lakes area and Gateway District. And he's aware that we have the split areas. So getting with all the questions, now's the time. The ones that Jim shut it off to us yesterday said take it to HR, this is HR. So please welcome Simon Story.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate it. Everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'm not sure quite what to say after that. Very nice welcome. Thank you. Good to be here with you folks this morning. And as Larry stated, I'm West Area HR Manager, so if you have any questions related to HR, I'm more than happy to field those. There's a lot of questions that I have that are unanswered at this time, as you can imagine, as we go through these various changes. I do have a PowerPoint that I'll kind of take you through. It hopefully will cover a few of the items of interest for you. And if not, again, we should have plenty of time for questions. As Larry stated, I'm here on behalf of the Western area, Mr. Sylvester Black, Area Vice President, so it really is a pleasure to be here to represent him. You probably, if you've heard Syl talk before, really the focus continues the same and the message is the same from the Western area. We have control over certain elements, and some pieces we don't have control over. As Syl would put it, strategy, we're going to leave to headquarters to worry about the strategy pieces. What we need to stay focused on is accepting, processing, and delivering the mail to our customers. That's where we have the greatest amount of influence over. So obviously working with our employees, working with our customers to ensure that we're providing the excellent service that we do each and every day. So let me just go ahead and start with the presentation. So you guys have probably started to see the news links that are coming out. This particular one is just sort of the initial conversation, if you will, on post-plan. Okay, so yesterday you started seeing some communication on a new consolidations plan for the network piece. They're obviously in the early stages of both of these issues. If you've heard the Postmaster General, on some of his videos, in fact, Larry and I were trying this morning to get a whole copy of that, because if you haven't seen it, the Postmaster General does talk real briefly, kind of taking you through the various stages in general terms. So if you haven't seen it, I think Larry's going to try to get it. I'm going to continue to try to get it for you guys, and hopefully you'll see it before the end of your conference here. In any case, this is probably one of the most valuable websites for workforce changes. If you're not familiar with it, I'll send this presentation out to Larry so he can forward it to all you guys. This is a good site to kind of go in and see what's happening from the HR side of the house. There's a lot of frequently asked questions on there with respect to the voluntary retirement piece. A lot of questions, folks that are maybe considering that option, especially the postmasters right now. It goes through and it has those FAQs, and we'll cover that fairly well. If there are any other questions on retirement, usually your local services within your respective districts, they are no longer really the retirement experts. Individuals would want to contact HRSSC directly. Move that down a little bit, get a little bit of feedback. So again, good site to go to. The other site that I don't have on here that is also a good site for just general information, Vice President of Delivery Operations, Mr. Dean Granholm, on his headquarters delivery page, they also have some information related to post plan and have the listing of offices that potentially impacted, so on and so forth. So that would be another good site to take a look at. This is Weston area data, but I just kind of want to give you a general idea of once the investments were made, we started to take a look at what is our retirement eligibility for our postmaster group. And you can see we've got some pretty big numbers. Just in the Weston area, actual eligible to retire right now is for optional retirement is 2,065. For those additional folks that fall into that, Vera eligible, 50 years of age and 20 years of service, so on and so forth, that's an additional 1,588. So of our grand total of 5,296, 69% of our folks within the postmaster ranks would be eligible to either go into optional retirement or take a Vera eligibility. So those are some pretty big numbers. For those of you that are going to be around a while, like myself, not only on the postmaster ranks, but I would also share with you for retirement eligibility, there is a lot of folks in that retirement eligibility bracket. I looked within the Weston area last month, and for EAS in general, within the next 3 years, we've got a 38% retirement eligibility percentage, and then when you go out 5 years, that jumps up to about 7%. So there's a lot of folks that are getting near that time in their life where they might want to think about spending more time with family and friends and loved ones and not worrying about getting into work early in the morning. So just thought I'd share that with you, general information. Okay. This is one of the questions that Larry talked to me about that may be of interest to you. And it's really dealing with the non-competitive lateral piece, the language that's in the EL 312. And the reason I brought it up there because I might sound a little bit like an attorney up here, where you ask me a question, I might say, well, it depends. Because some of these policies, although they're written in stone, with respect to EL 312 language, there are some changes that do happen from time to time based on when you get into a RIF avoidance scenario that I'll talk to you briefly. So this is one of those. I'll talk about it in a general sense, and then I'm going to get into it a little bit more with the postmasters, because there are going to be a couple of postings coming up, limited area of consideration, okay, that I'll share with you. So when to consider a non-competitive applicant. I'm not going to read through it, but I'm just going to basically hit the highlights for you. Essentially, the EL 312 language, and I'm putting it in my words, you can consider a non-competitive lateral or downgrade anytime up to the point of selection. So before the posting goes up, during the posting, up to the point really of the selecting official making the decision. Okay, so for example, unless the posting specifies otherwise, you could have an individual that notices a posting that's up and says, you know what, I've done some thought about it. I didn't apply through eCareer, the competitive. I'm at that same level. I want to apply for the non-competitive lateral. They send a letter in to the selecting official. It's always recommended that you send your eCareer pages in too. And then the selecting official has the authority to consider you non-competitively. And so therefore, at that particular point in time, if they choose to accept you, they'll put you right into that position outside of the competitive process. Okay. The selecting official also has the authority to, during that process, to consider, say, you know what, I've evaluated, I may not think you have the right skill set. I'm going to have you compete for the position and therefore require you to go through the competitive process. And then, as you will probably all know, if there's 11 or more applicants, it usually goes to a board. The board will then narrow it down, usually for the selecting official. In some cases, the selecting official may ask the board to make the selection, and they can do so also under the EL 312 language. So basically, then the board would then have to interview the candidates, and then they could make a selection and recommendation to a selecting official. That's very rarely done. Most of our selecting officials actually want to pick their team members, and so will actually then interview based on the top 3 or top 5 candidates, as an example. And that top 3 or top 5 is not fixed in stone either. So some basic guidelines down that are listed down there. Obviously, employee must be in a permanent position. Employee's level is defined at the level of the employee's permanent position. Safe grade status, we've got those issues that have happened through redesign, so we still have a number of employees that have that safe grade, safe salary piece. Some additional criteria, again, I don't want to read through all of that for you, but just to kind of give you some general language for those of you that are interested. The changes now when we get into postmasters. So you've heard of post plan. You understand through 2014, there's going to be some RIF avoidance processes that actually are occurring. First one's going to be happening very quickly here. The timeline that I put up there, I had a telecon just last week, at the end of last week with headquarters, and these are the sort of timelines that they've given us. So I've already reached out to the Western area HR managers. We're already working with HRSSC to get all level 18s and above posted in the system. That would be the same for the Great Lakes folks here too. Now, the one caveat I would make is with respect to postmaster positions that are already up and posted. There was a little bit of confusion going back and forth with headquarters. However, the areas, say if you've got a couple of level 24s up as an example, they are giving the areas the flexibility not to cancel those postings and then push them back up again. So that would be the only other piece of information I can share with you that may be helpful to your folks that ask questions. The available vacancies will be posted in eCareer May 22nd through the 28th. HRSSC goes through their eligibility process, reviews, gets their packages out to the selecting officials, and then you'll see a short time frame, June 1st through the 13th, to review and make selections for the 6/16 effective date. Why the push? Well, if you recall, the irrevocable date for the VERA that's been announced for the postmasters is June 22nd. So this is really one posting opportunity for the vacant positions, 18 and above, for our postmasters to have an opportunity to make a decision if they want to stay with the career or decide whether or not they want to take the early retirement or optional retirement with the incentive. And the incentive, as you know, is $20,000 paid out in a two-year plan, $10,000 per year. I think it's December 2013 and then following year. So this is just sort of some general information. It is a limited area consideration, meaning only postmasters can apply for these particular postings. There were some questions on that. Well, what happens if you've got, we have lots of scenarios out there. What happens if you've got an impacted EAS 17? They're no longer in an authorized position. Can they apply? The answer is no. It's a limited area of consideration. It's for postmasters only at this time. There'll be another posting. Again, my understanding is going to be a limited area of consideration for postmasters. I do not have the timeline at this point, so you just have to wait for Larry to send some information out. And talking about sending information out and communication, when we have big changes like this, some of the communication is a little bit disjointed, and I understand that. It's that way from headquarters down to the areas to the districts. Please understand during these times of change, there's like 1,001 questions. We don't have all the answers until it's sort of passed down to us, if you will. But one thing I will say, and I'm sure you folks that deal with Larry on an ongoing basis, Larry and I deal with a lot of management organizations, vice presidents, and so on and so forth. Larry does an excellent job in communicating out as far as the various publications, information that's sent down from NAP's president, Louis Atkins, and headquarters communications. So I just want to kind of throw kudos out to Larry because some of the information he sends out, it's like, oh yeah, I got to send that out to the district HR manager. Yeah, I better get on that. So, so I do appreciate the communication you sent out, Larry. Any general questions? I'm kind of lecturing here. Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
With regards to the postings, are we talking just level 18 and the specific limited postings? Are they going to be just level 18 to above? Are there any lower level offices going to be posted to that?
No, good question. No, there are no lower level positions, and the reason being for that is headquarters is going through a review process right now. And when you look into the details of the post plan, you've heard us talk about 2-hour offices, 4-hour offices, 6-hour offices. Really, that is part of the reason why. Once they go through their analysis, they're going to send out a listing, if you will, from headquarters down to the areas. I haven't received it yet, but it's basically each area is going to get their areas postmaster positions, and under the post plan rules, what those offices will actually be, whether they're going to be a 2-hour or 4-hour. And the plan is right now with the 2-hour and 4-hour offices, they're going to be non-career positions, and then your 6-hour offices are really career positions at that point. And the other piece that I mentioned with your 6-hour offices, you know, the analysis isn't done. You may have some of those offices because of the geographic area, and I know we'll experience this in the western area because we deal with large geography, and we have many offices outside of that 25-mile radius piece. And so at that point, some of those offices are going to be upgraded to the administrative post office, and therefore may get upgraded. So what that looks like right now, I don't have the specific details, but that's part of the reason why you won't see any lower level positions posted. That kind of makes sense? Anything else on just general post plan stuff that you guys, any burning questions on that? If not, I'll move on. Yeah, yes, sir.
Simon, one of the questions that we were kind of mulling over is if you have a 6-hour office, because you kind of assume that a 2- and 4-hour office is not going to have routes.
I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't necessarily make that assumption.
Okay, so one of these real small offices would maintain a rural route if they had it.
Yeah, and don't quote me because I haven't seen the final details of administratively how they're going to handle, but they could potentially have rural routes out of that office. Yeah.
But there's also a possibility the rural routes would be taken out and moved to a city office?
Yeah, and I wish I knew, I just don't know. I can't answer that question at this point. And that's partly because I don't have the specific details of how they're going to roll out or implement the 2-, 4-, and 6-hour offices at this point. We're in the early stages. You know, Postmaster General, when he said in one of his videos, he basically said, hey, you know, May 15th moratorium, what's going to happen? They said, well, nothing's going to happen. Well, obviously something's happening, but nothing as far as employees being impacted right now today. I mean, this is a 2-year plan. I mean, we're looking at out to 2014. So a lot of these pieces just haven't been put in play at this point. You know, we're in the early stages. So as soon as I can get some information, I'm sure Larry will do the same. And actually call out to Craig there in the back. I see him back there. You know, Craig will also be putting information out, I'm sure.
Will the 6-hour offices be part-time career or will it be full-time?
What's my understanding right now, and again, I don't have the specifics, but my understanding is if you have a postmaster that is in that particular office and they choose not to compete for other positions, you know, they'll obviously become an impacted employee through the RIF process. However, if they choose, they can stay in that office and they're actually go down to that 6-hour office. So that's about as much information as I have at this point in time. Yes, sir.
The offices that are being reduced to 2, 4, and 6, are they reduced to the 18, or can some of them be assigned to 20 and 21s and 22s?
Sorry, say that one more time.
These offices are going 2, 4, and 6 hours.
Right.
Is that gonna stay 18 and below that oversees them, or can some of them fall under 18, under the 20,
Yeah,
21?
they'll fall under an administrative office, and that could be an 18 or higher.
It could go
We're thinking most of them are gonna be 18s, but, you know, there may be circumstances that come up. They may have to make some adjustments. Again, what headquarters is doing right now is they're going through analysis of the geographic area. And, you know, I know there's various websites that sort of have the impacts, but, you know, they're kind of drawing these concentric circles 25 miles around to kind of see what is overlapping. They've made the decision that anything that overlaps an area, as an example, or district, they will not take an office out of, you know, one district to another, or one area to another. But as far as the impacts to the levels yet, I don't know. I just have to wait and see. Yeah.
What I'm getting at is, can they be assigned to a 21? If you have a 21 out in the middle of it,
I think it's going to depend on geography. And like I said, I just don't know. It's going to depend on the geography and where those offices are located. Could there be a potential? There could be. I just don't know until we actually see the final details. And I think, you know, as you guys know this, when headquarters comes down, you know, the areas go through a review, and then we reach out to districts and say, hey, take a look at this. There are always situations that percolate up. You know, they got the master plan, but it doesn't always fit. All the pieces don't necessarily fit right. So I'm sure there'll be some of that going on too. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the time we do for our offices, level 18, 21 offices, it changes their area of responsibility, or these offices going to be upgraded?
Some offices may get upgraded. It is really going to depend on, like I said, the evaluation that I haven't seen at this point. So you're going to have some, as an example, you may have a level 13 or 15 office or 16 office that gets upgraded to an 18. You may have that happen.
Okay, let's reverse that. Suppose you got a level 22 officer because of geographic, now becomes a level 20 officer.
I don't see that happening based on the information that's been provided at this point. I don't think the post plan is really primarily targeted for the lower level offices, and there are some situations, my understanding is that there will be some offices that get upgraded to 18. There's been absolutely no conversation with the reverse happening. But until I see the plan, I don't know. That I don't know. I haven't seen the specific plan yet. There will be some adjustments, I'm sure, to window hours. I mean, you're going, you know, 2-hour office, 4-hour office. I think there's some information in the FAQs, I just don't, I'm not recalling it right now. Yes, sir.
So essentially what you're saying is all the supervisors in this room don't really have an opportunity to get any higher level postmaster position.
At this particular time, that's correct.
The level 13s that are not even anywhere qualified for level 20
That's
are
correct.
going to get those.
Yeah, so what's the reality? The reality is they're going through this limited area of consideration posting. That's part of RIF avoidance. We've seen that happen before. What will happen is you have a level 13 that applies for a level 22 position, postmaster job, or level 20. Are they going to have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to perform that job? So therefore, you may have a number of positions that go unfilled. And they'll come up again for that second posting, same thing, limited area of consideration. They'll go through the same selection process. They may or may not make a selection. And if they don't make a selection, then I'm sure we will be allowed to then post again and widen the area of consideration. That's usually the way it flows. But we have to give folks an opportunity. Because there may be situations where you have a lower level postmaster, maybe a 16 that's been OIC'd and an 18 has some experience, that had opportunities for development. So there may be some of those opportunities available to folks that could compete. I think there was a question over here somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
So that clerk that would have the 2-hour window, once that 2 hours is up, do they move to the 4 hours? we're gonna have like a 4 hour, and then from the 4 hour to the other, we're gonna,
No,
okay.
no. My understanding right now, in the 2-hour, 4-hour offices, they're going to be non-career employees. Okay? The 6-hour offices, those are the folks that you'll be looking at as career employees. Whoops. So let me, no other questions on that? Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a question that was asked yesterday, about the 2 and the 4 hour non-career. Would those be, would retired employees be eligible to take a contract on those?
Good question. Yeah, good question. Yes, that opportunity would be available. And got an HR person I'm looking at right back there who may have the specifics. Gene, I know Gene is looking around, but I know Cindy is aware of the specifics. I'm not. But in answer to your question, yes. You can come back as a rehired annuitant. However, those individuals need to be aware of certain financial implications with that decision. And there are certain other processes that have to happen. And Cindy, shout out. Go ahead.
Well, the term keeps coming up, contract. It's not a contract.
It's not a
They're
contract.
Actual PMR or
Right.
TRC. Retired postal employees can be rehired as a PMR or TRC. But there's things that you have to go through, like you have to sign a form that says that you'll follow, you won't make more than this much money a year, you won't work this more than these hours. You have to compete for it, and if there's anybody else besides the postal employee, they have to choose them if they're qualified. And then you have to continue to recruit even after you're hired. But we've done it in Central Plains, and so it does happen.
Thanks. See, Cindy has way better memory than I do. But yeah, that has happened, does happen, and happens, I know, all across the western area where they will look at rehired annuitants. And there's an advantage to that. You've got some individuals, and I'm sure the agency, Postal Service, is going to be looking at that piece also, because if you have, I don't know how Great Lakes is, but I'm sure you've got pockets just like the western area where you've got some hard to fill offices, and you always struggle trying to get PMRs on. We've got some places out in Alaska, Montana, Dakotas that, especially right now up in the Williston area because of the oil boom, it's hard to get anybody on board. PMRs, TEs, PSEs, you name it. It's just difficult to get folks on board. So in that particular case, if you've got a postmaster that says, you know what, I'm ready to kind of settle down a little bit. I'm going to take advantage of the VERA. I'm going to take advantage of the incentive. But I'd still like to have a part-time job, maybe work 2 hours. Hey, I'd sign up for that. I got plenty of time to hang out with whatever their personal interests. Maybe it's family, grandkids, who knows. They may very well be interested in that, and we would be very interested in that because you've got an experienced person. Yes, sir.
So my question is, why would they not give it to you under contract? So it wouldn't affect your...
Policy, and I don't set policy. Yeah, it's a policy question.
But, okay, on the same note, so if you say I'm limited to how much I can make in this period of time, say $20,000 a year, that's all I can make, and above that, I start losing my units. Well, if the post office think about it, so what if I work my $20,000 between January and June? Now you got the whole summer to worry about who's gonna work that period, because that person's not gonna be kept as an annuity, so they'll be off for the summer.
Well, and remember
I
again,
have to work that.
yeah, no, I understand that, but remember you've got the Office of Personnel Management that's involved, and you've got government regulations, so it's a policy issue. I mean, good ideas, but whether or not they can actually implement through OEM, that's a whole different story. So, real quick, I'm going to touch on lead clerks. There's been a lot of conversation about lead clerks. Obviously, a lead clerk is going to be in any facility where there isn't any direct supervision. That's sort of the ratio, if you will, that you'd be looking at. So if you've got a facility that doesn't have direct supervision, then obviously there's going to be a lead clerk in that facility. But other than that, the larger facilities that have a complement of 5 or greater, that's sort of the ratio that you go by. Just because recs are in the Weston area, there's some conversation on the rec sites. The rec sites had an LOU that was signed off, and they were not assigned these new lead clerk positions. In the recs, they had group leaders, and they had a different job description. And I know in the Wichita rec, just because I've been having conversations, they've got about 38 group leaders. So there may be more conversation with headquarters on that, kind of transitioning those folks into the lead clerk or coming up with some sort of an adjustment. But I just referenced that just because we do have a couple of recs, one in Salt Lake and one in Wichita. The elimination of 204Bs, except in the absence of a supervisor for 14 days or more, and you get a one-time 90-day detail opportunity. So that's creating a lot of concern, I'm sure for many of you in here, in your conversations with plant managers. Yeah, it's an issue for us. That was one of the pieces that we agreed to with the APW. And I'm sure you guys know the APW has long wanted to have lead clerks and made the arguments that, hey, we can do that job. And so when you look at the contract and you look at some of the concessions that were given up for salary and benefits and so forth, I'm sure there was a lot of conversation around this particular piece. So elimination of 204Bs, yes, and that is the only exception, 14 days or more. So you will have on your lead clerk job descriptions, they'll basically be reporting to your supervisors. They are senior qualified, not best qualified.
No.
Well, I'm getting, yeah, I am getting
They're
that.
not senior, that's one side.
Well, for the new positions, because we're creating a lot more than what you got right now. So there is a grandfather piece, so I'll show that to you here in just a second. There was a question, yes, sir.
What's the level of the lead?
They're one level higher. So if there's 6s, there's 7s. So 7s is what they're going to be.
Is that,
Hey,
you said that was with APWU, is that just with the clerks, because APWU represents
Yes.
maintenance and PMF?
Yes, it's clerk craft.
Because they don't understand it that way.
Yeah, I know. Yes, ma'am.
The senior qualified, what criteria are they going to be using to select?
Seniority rules. You know, when you say it's senior qualified in the clerk craft, APW and most crafts, seniority rules.
So it's just going to be by seniority, whether they're, what if they've been a manual clerk?
Well, and that's the job descriptions. I mean, obviously, it's going to put us in a situation where if you have a senior person understands when they bid for the position, understands those job duties and so forth, that's where the management is going to have to hold those folks accountable. There you go. All right, so here's the lead clerk positions that have been created one level above the employees in that group. Here's the 3 particular jobs that we're looking at. There's been a lot of conversation about VMAU, rec sites. It doesn't apply at this point in time. It's these particular assignments. The link, if you're interested, you can go there, get the job descriptions, qual standards. Here's the piece that you were bringing up, and that's where we're talking about clerks who currently hold one of the titles listed below. They're the grandfathered folks. So the sales and service associates, they will be grandfathered clerk, finance, station, op-code, specific op-codes, but they're the ones that listed. Okay.
Question again.
Yes.
Okay, so I have finance centers that are hourly There's
If-
only one or two clerks other than,
If they have that specific op code, yes, they will.
but I can't get one from the other one.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen. If they have that particular op code, they will be grandfathered in. There's no local action on that. The HRSSC is gonna make the automatic change within the system, okay? Some other information, I'm kind of getting low on some of the time, and I want to cover a couple of the pieces and then maybe answer some more questions for you folks, but I'll get this presentation out to you so you have it on the new lead clerk positions. One of the things I did want to talk about, and you know, I'm from HR, so what would you expect? You want me to talk about change a little bit, right? And how difficult it is. You know, we've had a lot of impacts, and I don't want to discount this piece I'm talking about here because you guys as leaders, not only in NAPS, but also in your day-to-day positions, whether it's supervisory, whether it's managerial, it doesn't matter to me. You have influence over a group of individuals. Don't take that responsibility lightly. There's a lot of changes going in the organization right now, and change is tough for folks. You know, we went through redesign here not too long ago. A lot of folks were impacted with that. You're basically, you know, you get one of those letters and it's telling you that your job no longer, you know, you panic a little bit. Most people don't live to work, they work so that they can live. They have a life outside of the Postal Service. And when you start affecting people's careers, it has major impacts, family, personal, all of that. Not only, you know, outside, but obviously it has an impact at work, obviously, as well. But I'm trying to just paint that broader picture that when we go through change, it's very difficult. And a lot of times, you guys, myself, others, are in a situation where we've got to talk about this change. Don't forget to put yourself in the other folks' shoes, you know. People deal with change differently. You know, it's not as simple as saying, oh, hey, your job's gone. You know, there'll be opportunities. You're good to go. They're going to look at you and go, are you nuts? You know? Try walking in my shoes and go through all those emotional feelings that I'm dealing with right now. It's tough. So I just bring up this slide. I hope I can just close that out, Larry. Just kind of give you an idea of how change affects people. Yeah, it's one of those textbook graphs, but I think it represents the flow of emotions. And essentially, you know, when you start off, you're in your job and you know, people may have been in a job many years and they think, oh yeah, you know, it's like, I know what I'm going to do today. It's the same thing day in, day out for the most part. I can't say that in HR because we get to do things every day, and I'm sure you guys do as supervisors. You know, I've heard supervisors tell me before, it's like, this is nuts. I got to be a doctor, I got to be a lawyer, I got to be a counselor, and I got to move bail. You know, it's like, this is nuts. But hey, these folks, that's our responsibility to kind of help our workforce through change. And so you go through that normal state, and then you have that triggering event. And our postmaster just got hit with that triggering event. And all of a sudden, you know, their normal thought process just take a dump. They take a dive. And it's like, wow, what's going to happen now? It's like their world has just come to an end. So you go through that immobilization state, and then you go to that denial, and then you finally get ticked off, you get to that anger stage. I've been with this organization 25 years, and this is what they do to me. You've heard some of those comments? I hear them all the time. You know, and that's just, I just want to share with you this. It's a natural state. It's the employee emotional range. It's natural. It's normal. But our opportunity is to help, you know, take these folks through this change and help them to be compassionate, considerate, empathize, but also to show them the opportunity to get back on the road again. And that's where we need to go. I mean, and there's some bargaining in there, and then they may drop again. See, it's all over the place. Then they'll drop back down and get depressed, and they'll come back up, and they'll like test the premise. Well, can I do this? Can I do that? Well, I know I'm not in that you know, I don't have that 20 experience, but, you know, I'll do a good job for you, you know, can I get into that 20? And they may not have the skill set. And then you've heard those stories where people get into situations where they do get promoted, and then they get into all kinds of other troubles because they don't have the experience. So, you know, you can see that happening with a 13, or maybe get selected into a level 18 or a 20 job, stuff like that. And then they finally get to that point where they accept it. We help them through the change. We help them through the risk avoidance activities, and then they get to that new state, if you will. So just some general thoughts that folks do generally go through a lot of emotions when you're dealing with change. And one of the things that I would have all you guys pay attention to, me included, is communication sometimes is not how we would like it, but do your best, just like, you know, I know Larry does, and Craig and myself, communicate as much information as you can that is factual, that is written in stone, if you will, because rumors don't help us. We need to provide factual information to our employees, and we need to communicate, and then communicate some more. A couple of items to be aware of: employee assistance programs. EAP still has a stigma to it, and I understand that. Some people, I mean, there's a variety of reasons why. You know, you've got the male type that's the macho, I don't need EAP, I'll solve my own problems. And then maybe some other folks have bad experience with EAP, or they're worried about confidentiality, or all those things. You know, I understand that, but there are times when you go through that low point, depression, anger, you need to reach out. And if they can't reach out to a family member or a friend, their NAPS representative, EAP. And if you don't know how to deal with it because you don't have that experience, EAP, get them to EAP, get them to folks that can actually sit down and work through some of these issues with them. Take time to assure your own health. Take time to talk with family and friends. Build confidence in yourself. And you guys have probably said, I've heard all this stuff before. It's a good reminder. Because sometimes we don't take time to do some of these basic things, to look after ourselves. If we look after ourselves, we'll be able to be in a better position to help others look after themselves. So we need to, you know, remember these things. You know, yeah, we're going through a change. We're going through a tough time. I saw a video many years ago. It's called Go Fish. It was, I don't know if some of you remember that video. It was about the Pike Street Market in Seattle. And it was kind of a motivational thing. And basically it was talking about how each and every day we have an opportunity to make some choices. When we get up in the morning and you're thinking, oh, that was an awesome weekend, but man, it's Monday. And you gotta crawl out of bed and you're brushing your teeth and you're going, I gotta get some coffee. I'm just wiped out and get some coffee, maybe that'll help. You start to make some of those decisions. Where do you go with that? Do you start to then get yourself in the thought process, hey, when I get into work, I'm gonna see so-and-so, and you know, we've got this issue that we need to work on. And then you had your breakfast and you get in your car and you're starting to get excited and getting a little bit pumped up about getting to work because you got these things that you are looking forward to because you enjoy your job, you enjoy what you're doing. How do you react on a daily basis? You get to make choices. You know, are you going to choose to be a positive influence on the folks around you? Are you going to make the choice to look optimistically? Yeah, we're going through some tough times. I mean, this is a big organization. We have a valuable mission to the American public. We are servants, if you will. What kind of choices are you guys going to make? I can tell you it's a choice. It's a simple choice. I can't make that choice for you. You can't make it for me. But you make the choice to go down and look at the glass half empty. I call it the downward spiral. It's kind of like when you flush the toilet. It never ends up going in a good place. It doesn't. Who likes to hang around with people that are down and depressed and have a negative attitude all the time? Anybody? It's like, man, I can't wait to go out with that person. They're just, no, we don't do that. We like to hang out with people that have the same thoughts, values. You know, we like to be around people that have some positive thoughts and emotions, if you will, for lack of better words. So I take a little bit more time on that because we are in a tough time right now, but you as leaders in the NAPS organization have an opportunity, because to me, leadership is all about influence. How are you using your influence? Make the choice to make it a positive experience. Yes, ma'am?
Have you heard any talk about them creating a different job title for RCAs and PLRs, where perhaps they would work in a pool of offices, because we're having such a difficult time hiring those two positions?
Not at this point in time. There's so much change going on right now with post-plan and network optimization. I think everybody's wheels are
Seems
just...
like it's going to get harder with this new
Yeah.
plan.
It's going to be a challenge as we move forward, no doubt about it. Yes, sir.
I manage several subordinate EAS supervisors, and we're in an impacted process of distribution where so far I've tried to be really good about doing OIC assignments and looking at administrative jobs. Now it looks like that's more closed off. What do you see kind of on the horizon for people that are in the impacted PMDCs and as network optimization begins to work through? What things should I be encouraging them to look for?
Timing is everything, obviously, with postings and positions and so forth. But what I will share with you in a general sense, in trying to keep that optimistic conversation going. Pat has talked about, our Postmaster General has talked about soft landing spots. Although that is not a guarantee that people are going to get a position, there's some action on their part that's needed, okay? We have, and I can't speak for the Great Lakes because I don't know their stats, but I can speak for the Western area. We have a tremendous amount of vacant positions right now. So that being said, in a general sense, there is a lot of opportunity for folks. And when you're going through that change piece, look, I understand, talk to any of the folks that went through the redesign. We were fortunate in the Western area. Other folks that chose to go for the Vera, we had nobody left. Nobody left the organization. We didn't push anybody out. Everybody had a job. Now, was it their ideal job, their dreams? Probably not. But they have a job. And we've been very good with the Postal Service. Megan's talked about this. Pat's talked about that. We've talked about it in the Western area. We've been very good about finding positions for those folks that want to stay in the organization. Again, is it their job or their dreams? No. But that's where you got to make that choice to say, okay, I was impacted, I'm here, now, what are the choices I'm going to make? Am I going to stew and be negative and angry, or am I going to make a choice to do the best job I can right where I'm at right now, knowing that this isn't my final stop? I want to get back here or there or wherever it may be. So what I would say to the supervisors, first of all, there are plenty of supervisor positions. The struggle that we always have is they may not be in the location that folks want. And that is the reality. I mean, some folks may have to relocate. But if they want to stay with the organization, there's opportunity.
Simon, along those lines, though, let's say that somebody had to relocate a much further distance if they wanted. Is there any possibility to have some kind of a grandfather type clause if the vacancy opened up back here that they get first preference and consideration?
No,
there's do something like that.
No, there's nothing in our. No, the only thing that applies to, obviously, as you know, Larry, is the clerk craft out retreat rights.
Right.
But for EAS management employees. Yes, sir. How you doing?
Good. I wanted to reference something when you were talking about the 204Bs, because, I'm looking at all the things that are going on, so I'm kind of wondering when the dam is going to break loose and we can fill some supervisory positions. As you know, in Omaha, we've been running short for almost 5 years now.
Yeah, no, great question.
Ever since, do we have a sense of when the dam's going to break loose? Because I tell you, I know we're using 3 204Bs 90 days at a time. 2 weeks back, bring them back every time, because we have supervisors out at FMLA, we have other ones, other slots that are empty. Now we had one that just went DRAC, now I got another one going DRAC, so, that's kind of what we're looking at. How do we, and when is the dam going to break?
Okay, so let me just in general terms, what are we doing right now? Where are we at? As far as for EAS positions, there is no freeze per se. However, there is a critical review process that we go through. So, have we been posting supervisor jobs in the Western area? Yeah, we have. Have we been posting all of our vacancies? No. Why is that? Well, Larry and I have had this conversation before. One of my commitments, and I think it's just a general approach that most HR managers look at, I don't want to be in a spot where I don't have a landing spot for somebody and they end up riffed. I want to make sure I've got enough landing spots so that these impacted supervisors have a place to go. Yes, it may not be within 50 miles, but I got a place to go. And we had some difficulty with that in redesign. We ended up moving some folks outside of commute. And that's going back to the personal side of it. When it hits you personally, it's a big deal. And it's tough because you're moving people away from, hey, but like, you know, my mom and dad just live down the road a couple of miles and you want me to go here and how am I going to take care of my kids because my mom takes care of my, you know, all of these personal issues come into play. So have we been conservative with postings? Absolutely. I'll stand here and I'll take full responsibility for that. But understand, my primary motive in that is to make sure that we have placement opportunities. We're going through a review process right now, and we have been going through this. We have supervisors that are no longer authorized. So, you know, you go through your supervisor workload credits, you go through your evaluation process. That fluctuates and changes. As you know, the male volumes have been declining. Changes, you know, movements of stations and so on and so forth. Affects all that stuff. So bottom line is, we have some impacted folks that we got to find placement for right now. And we haven't even got into a full part of network optimization and consolidation. And I can tell you right now, coming up in for the Western area, it's going to be very limited impact for August for us.
And follow up to that, do you see them opening up any more supervisor spots for BMUs? I mean, most BMUs right now, for example, you know, you have a manager and then you have somebody above that manager, and you have one level 17 supervisor for now a 24-hour operation.
Yeah, if the districts have the authorized position for a supervisor job, it's up to the district complement committee through their district manager and so forth to push those requests up to the area. And I haven't, you know, I'm putting forward some postings in Seattle for supervisor jobs, Vegas. Are they going to be limited? Yeah, they will be because of all the reasons I stated previously.
What advice can you give us on the justification coming to you to get more priority?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, I was getting nervous. I was looking at my wife and thinking, oh, Larry's going to kick me off.
I'll be on the back door.
Yeah. Sorry, say it one more time.
What are you looking for in those justifications, that business cause that will move us to the top of that list to get that vacant position posted and filled?
Primarily, it's based on operational needs. So if you've got a situation where you've got a supervisor that isn't getting any days off, you know, you're getting into overtime, penalty overtime, you know, say you've got an authorization of 5 supervisors and you're down to 1. That's a pretty decent justification to say, hey, we need some help here, folks. And if the district manager and the complement committee make that determination, they send that request up to the area, and then we go from there. If that type of justification comes up, unless I know that there's an impact, future impact with network optimization, with authorizations, usually we're going to send those up. Yes, sir.
Central plan, they have tend to move supervisor around without change of Form 50. Is that the correct way to do it?
Okay, so make sure I got this correct. You've got supervisors and you're just moving them around where you want?
Yeah, just, you know, when you establish your house, your home, your kids' school, they can move you different station, whatever they want.
Yeah,
right now to come up with a SOX of compliance. When you move it, you lose everything, you got to reapply, you got to, you know, go with them, you know.
Well, I saw Larry say, yeah, I got that one. So, but what I would say to Larry, and I would say to you, is that in a general sense. There are some letters, memorandums that are put out on involuntary reassignment to supervisor, managers, whatever. And Larry referenced earlier with respect to my position on that, and Larry and I think, are pretty much in sync, and when we've had those issues, we've been able to correct those issues in accordance with that particular memo. But look, it's really, a lot of this is about communication. If you need to move, say you have a particular operational need, and if it's for short term, most supervisors, I used to be one at one time, and I've had my manager come to me and say, hey, I got this going on, can you help me out for 2 weeks doing this? You have that interaction, that communication, most people will step up to the plate, but if it's an involuntary type of thing, work through Larry the specifics, and then him and I will take a look at it.
That's good.
That's in our area, western area. Yeah, sorry, good point, I think you may be from Great Lakes. All right, so for the Gateway. So for the Gateway folks, just work through your normal channels through, your, I always go to my vice president of NAPS for those types of, they kind of talk to me, and then, we work together on those issues, and I'm sure Rochelle is the new HR manager for Great Lakes. You'd have to follow up through her.
Let me just comment on that. I don't know of issues in the Gateway that's a big deal that we have to fix.
We're gonna have two, but they're very severe, but we're gonna get two.
If you're not successful, then all you gotta do is tell me.
Well, Rochelle does have.
And with regards to Omaha, if that's happening in Omaha, we need to go through Cary first, but we can fix that. We can absolutely fix that. And even if the district doesn't agree, it's not going to agree. So ultimately, we'll win that. So just let us know. The only thing about any of that is, you're going to stand up for yourself.
One thing I would add is that, when you flow it through Larry as an example, or Craig, or any of the other, vice president of NAPS, make sure you give them specifics. I don't mean this to come across rude or anything like that, but I deal with so much this and that, and it's like I don't have a lot of time for that. It's like, you want me to address an issue, give me the specifics. I need to know who, what, when, where, why, how. I need to know everything. Give me the specifics, because each case is a little bit different. Give me the specifics, then Larry and I can get on the right page, and we can address it quickly. If you give me just general allegations, it's like, 99.9% Larry knows this. I'll defer to the district, and I'll say, hey, look, this is coming up in your area. Take a look at it, get back to me, let me know what's going on. But if you want me to deal with it quickly, you've got to give me the specifics. So I would ask that you send those through Larry or Craig, and we'll handle it. Yes, sir.
I've got a question to ask Larry, I guess both of you,
Sure.
concerning involuntary reassignment. The questions I get from both customer services and the plan are, somebody is promoted to a job that says their hours are 7:30 to 4. And then the postmaster says, well, I'm going to move you to closing hours. Now you're going to work 9 to 6. Their question in customer service, is that considered involuntary reassignment? And then from the plant, person's working 2 or 3, and the plant manager says, I'm going to move you to 2 or 1. Is that considered involuntary reassignment? And it seems to be ambiguous.
Okay, so I'm just going to read this to you real quick. I got the involuntary reassignment letter right here. It's from Patrick Donahoe, signed December 20th, 2007. And I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but in all cases where an involuntary reassignment is authorized, the following steps must be followed. The employee must be advised of the nature of the assignment, the rationale, the intended objective, and the anticipated duration of the assignment. The employee must be afforded the opportunity to discuss modifications to the assignment as appropriate and have their input considered in making the determination. Whenever possible, sufficient lead time must be provided to minimize disruption to the employee and postal operations. Where the employee is a member of a management association, local representative should be advised of the reassignment's nature, purpose, and duration if requested by the employee. He goes on to say we need to focus on the intended purpose of the decision to authorize these types of reassignments and identify the objective to the impacted employee. Arbitrary or punitive involuntary reassignments are inappropriate and are distinguished from temporary assignments that are designed to meet developmental or operational needs. Adherence to these guidelines will help maintain our commitment to meet both personal and operational needs as effectively as possible. So when it goes to involuntary reassignments, I've gone on record with Larry, this is what we're going by. Now, you got to look at the specific case. If it's an operational need that they change an employee's duty assignment, their hours and so forth, can they do that? Yes, they can. Do they do that on occasion? Yes, they can. Is it Form 50 or change made? Sometimes there is, yeah. But there has to be some conversation in that. So I refer to, if you don't have this letter, I know Larry does, he'll get it to you. Yeah, and you guys ought to have conversations.
We'll cover this tomorrow when we're doing that, because this deserves a conversation with everybody here. But that particular scenario you gave me, I can answer that, I can tell you how we're gonna deal with it, and I can tell you that the way that I intend to deal with it, you'll support. So it's just a matter of doing it, waking people up, and still think they can do that when they want to, and we'll get it figured out. But we'll talk about this tomorrow during our general session.
One last piece I have is I just want to show you a couple of the last two slides. Then I can say I actually got through my presentation. These couple of bullets, you know, we've got employees, folks that you represent that are under stress. You may be under stress at times. The point I always like to make is, hey, your bosses, they're no different than you or me. They're under stress too. So keep that in mind. They have a lot of pressures on them as well, our operational managers. So just keep that, but you know what? They don't have all the answers. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on right now, and right, wrong, or indifferent, we just don't have all the answers on these pieces that are being implemented at this point. And I don't mind telling you that. Whether you believe me or not, that's a different thing. But, you know, hey, that's where I've got to maintain the honesty and integrity piece of myself. But one thing I will share with you, when I was a supervisor many, many years ago, I always thought, well, my NPO knows what's going on. He just doesn't want to share it with me. And then when I got into HR, I thought, well, the HR manager knows what's going on. He's just not, he just can't say nothing. And then I became an HR manager, and I started working with the DM, and I thought, well, the DM, you know, they're executives, PCs type, they keep it confidential. They can't share it with me, but I know they know what's going on. And then I got to be the area HR executive, and I thought to myself, going through all these changes, surely Sil knows what's going on with some of this stuff. And what I can honestly tell you is all through these stages, that is true. They may not have the answers all the time. You might think that they do, but they don't. A lot of this stuff that's happening right now is being driven by headquarters. And I can tell you the news links and the releases, I would have thought from an HR standpoint, I'd have got those earlier on, but I got them the same time as everybody else. You know, so I share that with you just for you guys to keep in mind that yes, you want to have your answer, you know, your questions answered right away. Give your, you know, your management, if you're going to the next level in your organization, or whether Larry's coming to me or Craig's coming to me, give us a little bit of time to figure it out, because we may not have the answers off the top. We may not, you know, that information may not have been shared. So just do your best to remember that would be appreciated. And obviously remember, you know, Lou Holtz is always a good thing. I like his quote, do right, do your best, treat others as you want to be treated. And then the last slide. I like this quote. Everything's going well, hey, life's good. It's easy to be that person of integrity and honesty and good character. It's when the chips are down when it really matters. That's really the true test of character. Is how do you handle it when life's rough? Whether it's a personal tragedy or issue, or whether it's a professional one, how do you respond? So with that, Larry, if you've got time, I'll be willing to share.
Yeah, we've still got some time, and I want to make sure everybody is satisfied with the top guy here with their question.
Well, use that top guy lightly.
Y'all ready, please, to get along. Yesterday, there were some questions that Jim Harmon said, asked Simon. Everybody remember what those were?
Yeah, I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Simon probably can't answer. I'm in a love, I'm in a DEC, that's attached to the main office. DEC is growing, the main office is downgraded. DEC is 22, the main office is now downgraded to 20. Well, they make it a 22 because the DEC is almost 20. Now, we have a postmaster and a manager. To justify the postmaster job, they're upgrading them, but the switch and everything came back to the 21, or was it the 22? So, right now, they're up in the air. What they're gonna do with the postmaster, what they're gonna do with the manager? How would you handle it? Then I have.
Boy, that was a loaded question. Man, well, I was at this NAPS thing, and Simon said, so Rochelle, you better.
Not Rochelle, I'm dealing with.
Oh, okay. Here's how I'll respond to it, and I won't give you the answer if you want. I apologize, but I need you. They're going to have to work through that particular circumstance. Are there situations that come up where you'll have manager customer service level 22 and you have the postmaster the installation of 22? Yes. Those situations do come up once they go through the analysis piece. One time it was thought, well, the postmaster always needs to be a level higher, so we need to upgrade the postmaster to say a 23 if he's got a level 22 manager customer service. That is in fact not correct. They do not have to do that, and policy in fact supports that we do not have to do that. Can I quote it to you right now? No, I can get it to Larry.
Yeah, get it to Larry.
Yeah, but there is some policy language on that, and that is not a requirement, and it doesn't make an automatic upgrade. So you have to look at each specific case. I know we've had some of those issues before, and obviously, if local management, they would have the discretion to do this. I mean, if it gets pushed to the point where it's like, fine, we'll realign the operations to make the appropriate grade. You can start doing those types of things, and then you can have downgrades involved in it. So you got to be careful with them and work through it step by step.
Can I ask something?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you saying that they were trying to upgrade the postmaster, which is in the smaller office, and downgrade the manager, which is in the larger office?
Yeah.
Not
knowing the specifics, that doesn't.
No specifics. The larger office is steady growing. It's booming industry and it's growing. But the offices got smaller. The university is buying up everything around there. So they're losing delivery. And going to continue because the university is growing and they're steady buying up residential areas.
Yeah, and my comments still stand. I mean, you don't have to have an automatic upgrade, but you'd have to look at.
That's what I'm saying. The postmaster does not have to, the postmaster is 22, stay at 22, even if this office continues to grow to become 23. You don't have to move the people around.
No.
Well, I
By authority of the position of postmaster, that person will be in charge of both offices.
Yes. If it falls into that installation.
No matter what that person's level is.
Yeah, but, I guess that's why I said you gotta look at it case by case, because I guess I would personally want to have a review and take a look at it, because if we're starting to talk about now. Yeah, state. Yeah, but I mean, yeah. But me personally, I'd want to take a look at it and see what's going on there. Anything else? Oh, there's no.
I do have a question kind of involving your themes on change and supporting employees through change. one of the things I believe is that really our internal customer service should be as good as our external customer service. And one of the more frustrating things in the last few months has been the changes with HRSSC in handling FMLA requests. And I can't tell you, I'm not a trained medical person. I could not tell an individual what they needed to put on an FMLA form to meet their criteria. But we're getting a lot of that blowback from our employees because they are not getting treated over the phone when they call, because there's very limited ways for them to contact someone there. They're not getting good information back in what needs to be provided on an FMLA form for cure. Oftentimes deadlines are getting missed. There's notification periods are being missed. What are we trying to do? And granted, this is kind of new at Greensboro, all of FMLA going there. What are we trying to do as an organization to improve that internal customer service? Because when you talk about anger and how the company's treating me and those kind of things, well, there's a lot of anger in how that's being handled, because it's almost like the employee is expected to be an expert in knowing how to fill out an FMLA form to tell their health care provider what to provide on that in order to avoid a lot of hassle and possibly disapproval of FMLA that they're trying to get. And do you have any thoughts on that?
No, I mean, it's a great question. And, we've struggled transition with HR. I mean, you talk to any HR professional. I mean, you've got Cindy and Janine back there. I mean, you talk to anybody in HR, there's been a certain level of frustration just with process for HRSSC and how we used to do things. It's been a change and been a challenge for us. But what I would say is, if you have any specific issues coming out of your district, get them to. Now, I'm not sure whether you're whether you're part of Central Plains. Okay. I should have known that. Sorry.
Western area.
There you go.
Just so you know, we're at the rec. We're at Wichita Rec.
Okay. So here's the deal. Okay, so the rec's a little bit different.
Yeah.
In a number of ways, but what I would suggest, I didn't mean that bad. Yeah, too late. Yeah, exactly. All right, you're too late on that. No, with respect to that FMLA piece, here's what I would say. Get with the district office in Central Plains and give them some specific information as far as, who, when, where, all that stuff. And then I would like, and Cindy, and you can take this back to Vicki, have Vicki elevated up to me, and then I'll go directly to the Shared Services Center.
Because we're experiencing a lot of things right now where folks have done what they need to do and submitted it sometimes 2 and 3 times to Greensboro and then they're getting disapproved. Then they're getting slammed with unscheduled absences from, oh my gosh, 2 months ago. And then we're being put in the untenable position when it comes to discipline on attendance. Then all of a sudden they have to address something that happened 2 months ago.
No, it's
and things like that.
Yeah,
and
it's a great point, and it's a real issue, and I'm not discounting that at all. But really, if you can get funnel through, if Vicki and her team in Central can't handle it, can't get Shared Services to get that corrected. But if it's a more systemic issue, it's just happening more than once on an ongoing basis type of issue, that's the communication that needs to come up to me, because then I can reach out to the executive, Tom Burnell, and talk directly with him about some of these process issues. And it's not just FMLA. There's a variety of other issues that we have, that the field gets frustrated with. And going, from your perspective of, support and so forth, it's like, what are we doing here? They've already submitted the paperwork, and what happened? Where did it go? They just can't go up in thin air. Somebody must have it up there. So there's process issues, and we have those struggles. But I mean, if it's an ongoing type thing, I'm more than happy to address it.
Just to add to that, one of my employees was told to call the Department of Labor from North Carolina.
Excuse me?
They told her to call the Department of Labor.
Well, it must have been a really interesting question she asked.
Well, she put in for FMLA, and it only gave her like 2 weeks in earnest. And this is going to be lifetime for her. She's got stage 4 cancer. And so then they told her she had to get documentation a second time. So they covered another thing for 2 or 3 weeks. And now she's into the point where they're asking for documentation again. And then they told her to call it for a minute.
No, elevate it up through the
Okay.
district.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Story, Paul Pickett from Des Moines. Where are we, do you have a current status update on the 4 positions that the APW was looking at? One was the 19 IT positions, a level 14 NTC mail flow coordinator, and 2 others. Is there any update on that status, and that survey the APW is conducting?
No, and they're also, I'll throw AMS in the mix as well. They're also doing a review on address management as part of the APW piece. Headquarters is looking at that. I don't have any updates from them at this point in time. I do know that headquarters has been reaching out to various AMS managers as an example, and they've been reaching out to operations managers with respect to some of these other positions. But as far as determination or any update at this point, sorry, I just don't have it.
You don't tell those people get out of their job, they think their job is gone, man.
No, I mean, until you see it in black and white, or I see it in black and white. I mean, obviously the APW is going after certain positions, but I don't have an update, and maybe Brian does.
Well, now, one of the things we just addressed with the post office is those 4 positions. We were supposed to get an update. The law department for the postal office is looking at it. Same with the labor. They're supposed to be coming up with some sort of decision. I'm guessing probably the end of the month or probably the first part of June. But it's still contingent on what the law department comes up with, so they're still reviewing the data. We were informed, like the surveys have all been completed. They just have to, and then review it, and then also discuss it with the unions. So.
Yeah, thank you, Brent. And just as a, going back to that communication piece and sometimes how things flow, as you guys all well know, NAPS is consulted with. Your NAPS leadership is right in the middle of all this stuff. They have information that I don't. I mean, know what's going on in some of this. So you're probably going to get it from these folks before you're going to hear anything from me, just because of the way the information flows. I think that's just a reality. Sorry, yes?
Simon, we have EHRSSC, we have HRSSC, we have tax, we have web coins, we have SST now. How come none of them match?
Yeah, I wish I had the answer to that one.
Because I mean, right now, with SST, that's the new thing with the plants. Well, customer services had it, but now the plants all have to be on SST.
Right.
And once this HCEF shows my job's correct, but none of the other systems do, so HRSSC won't process anything because they say they're correct. Nothing else is correct.
Yeah, the appropriate answer is that these systems are actually all linked, and it's just an issue of upload and download to get the information in there. But we do understand as HR professionals that sometimes there are delays, and I tend to go to web coins. That's primarily where I go to for like authorized positions and things of that nature.
My web coin was totally messed up.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll take that back. Okay, no, good feedback. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, because what it says in web coins isn't what it says in when they downloaded the SST, which isn't what it says in HRSST.
That's a problem.
And so when I send it in through my JVM, who fixes my jobs, she comes back and says, well, that's what they say. I said, but that's not what it says here and here and here. Well, that's what it says in HTML.
Maybe that's part of the reason why we're going through this JVM cleanup process right now. It's like unassigned regulars too. I mean, not to belabor the issues that we have communicating back and forth at times, but with HRSSC, there are times we're sending things up 2 and 3 times and haven't gotten them adjusted in the system. But we're going to have to work through those issues. The system is what the system is. If it's a system problem as far as communication, that's the piece we need to get corrected so that it does align the way it's programmed to. So if you can give me specifics, I'm more than happy to push that up. Yes?
Well, I think HCES is the most reliable, but only 1 or 2 in the district can get access to it.
Yeah, and that's why I said I tend to use web coins, because you're correct. It's a limited access. The confidentiality goes with that system. I don't even have access to it. So I usually designate the 2 subject matter experts in the area that have the access, and districts do likewise. Anything else for me? Otherwise, I'll step aside. I don't want to take too much of you guys' time.
Simple, these lead clerk positions that you have, or that are set out, who fills in for them when they're off?
There is no right.
No relief?
There is, no, you get a designated number of lead clerks. Now, operations has the opportunity, with appropriate justification, if they want to go more than their allotted, assigned number. So say you get.
Taking a leave or sick, you have no leave, right?
In some cases, that can be an issue, yeah. So that's why right now, we've got some units, some plants in particular, that are taking a look at their lead clerk numbers and finding out where they're going to have those duty assignments, and they're going to make a decision as to whether or not they need additional lead clerks.
Would they just have to train somebody out there? I mean, when you follow the same thing, it's kind of like, not to mix the 2 crafts. But if you go to the next person in the line, say, are you willing to, do you want to hold this position? In other words, do you want the higher pay for the day to be the lead clerk? And then train them to do that job and have them fill in their job?
No, these are designated OCCO Form 50 jobs that you're going to have a certain number of lead clerks. And as far as the 204B issue, throw any cups or anything at me, but, seriously, there is no exception under the APW contract outside of those 2 exceptions I showed up there for an absence of 14 days or more for one 90-day term, period. So, doesn't apply to the maintenance craft, doesn't apply to your carrier craft at this point, or your mail handlers. So, I guess if I was a supervisor and I was struggling, I'd be looking at, okay, do I have a good mail handler? Do I have somebody in maintenance that I can take a look at? I don't know.
We're going to have to work through this. You said just one 90-day period?
Yes,
And at what time?
that is correct.
At what time frame? 1 year?
Excuse me?
Is that per year or that's really not designated?
It's not designated, Larry. That'll be probably a subject of a future arbitration.
About 91.
I'm just trying to anticipate what's going to happen with that, because we've got some people that we've trained over the years, that are looking for those opportunities to move ahead. And by the Postal Service saying that and restricting those people, are we not holding back those people for their opportunity advance, and wouldn't that be considered, I can see it coming. It's going to be an EEO claim against the Postal Service, you're not allowing me the opportunity to be promoted, and we said yes to that contract.
I'm not so worried about that piece of it, to be honest with you. What I'm more concerned about is operationally, what the impacts, and to your point, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it too. I don't know all of the ramifications that are going to come of this, but understand, we agreed to this. It is a joint contract. We did sign off on it, and we're going to have to, in the field, figure out how to implement this successfully with limiting liability to the organization. Because I've had people ask me, well, what is the remedy if we don't comply? Well, your guess is as good as mine. But usually when the APWU files a grievance, they're after some monetary settlement. I just don't know what it would be. So therefore, to be in compliance with what we agreed to, and we as representative of the organization need to uphold the contract, we're going to have to get creative and figure out how to make this work.
Well, I can tell you, the upfront side of that is going to be, what you're going to do is you're going to look at every one of the crafts that you can have somebody to bring in as a supervisor, and the clerk people will get their one shot and that's it.
Yeah.
That's not fair to them.
And I do have my staff continuing to work on FAQs, question and answers, that type of thing, on the lead clerk as questions come up. So if there's something that hasn't been addressed, get it up through your district LR, get it up to us, and then we'll take a look at it. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge, no doubt. I don't say this stuff lightly. It is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a new way of doing business for us, and we're just going to have to work through these issues.
What was the actual start date of it again?
June.
This June.
This June. Yeah, like right around the corner. Yeah. With that, I'm gonna hang around for a little bit, so if you guys have a break, and if you want to talk to me about something, I'm more than happy to do that. But again, to reiterate the point that I started with, a lot of the strategic pieces, we don't have control over. What we do have control over are the choices that we make each and every day, how to interact with each other, with peers, with our subordinates, with our bosses. Seriously, think about that piece. If I leave nothing else with you, think about the choices that we make each and every day, and think about the team members that rely on you and the folks that you represent. And then the last thing I would say is, really, what we have control over right now is accepting, processing, and delivering the mail for our customers. You guys do an excellent job in doing that. I know in the Weston area, we've got good service scores overall. We've got a history of that, and it's because of the dedication of all of our employees. So if I can leave anything with you from the AVP, it's accept, process, and deliver the mail. Stay focused on providing the best possible service to our customers. Thanks, everyone.